In this video we are going to talk about Japan's $20 billion floating airport is sinking. So before starting, please like this video and subscribe to this channel for our future updates. Despite its wealth of pricey and ingenious architectural wonders, Japan's major infrastructure projects have not always run smoothly. The Kansai International Airport is largely regarded as one of Japan's most important technical failures. Buildings on reclaimed ground near Osaka Bay are sinking. Engineers expected the island to sink, but they had no clue how much until it did. Experts say the airport will reach sea level by 2056, endangering the terminals and runways. Engineers have devised some creative techniques to slow the sinking, but these are only temporary fixes. Even if the airport continues to collapse for another 100 years or more, it will almost probably have to be closed. Construction on the Kansai International Airport began in 1987, with an initial cost estimate of $8 billion. Despite the pricey renovations, the overall construction cost of the airport has risen to $20 billion. Engineers are strengthening the seawall and putting iron plates under the foundation of Kansai International Airport. These actions should slow the airport's decline. In the video below, learn about Japan's $20 billion floating airport and how it's being saved. Let's see to know about reasons of sinking Kansai International Airport. A new airport will open north of Istanbul, Turkey, in October, built on muck from a former Black Sea marshlands base. A huge expansion of the Maldives archipelago's main city airport is emerging from the Indian Ocean. A runway will open in an estuary of the Brisbane River in Australia in 2020, above land that engineers say is no more stable than toothpaste, according to engineers. Those airports, like dozens of others built on ground reclaimed from the sea, will sink. The only question is how quickly it will happen. The race to the bottom is led by the Kansai International Airport, which serves the Japanese city of Osaka and is located on two artificial islands in Osaka Bay. Kansai has plummeted 38 feet since it was opened in 1994. The islands of Kansai were expected to settle evenly, or recede, over a 50-year period until settling at 13 feet above sea level, according to engineers. In the event of a breach in an encircling seawall, this is the minimum elevation required to avoid flooding. Within 6 years, portions of the first of the two islands reached that milestone. The barricade was raised for at least $150 million, but some engineers anticipate that by 2056, areas of the two man-made islands will have sunk another 13 feet, to sea level. According to Yukako Handa, communications director for Kansai Airports, which manages Kansai's two artificial islands as well as the original Osaka Atami Airport on the mainland, the amount of soil to reclaim the land was determined based on necessary ground level and subsidence estimation over 50 years after the construction. Engineers couldn't believe the disparity between laboratory projections of the rate of consolidation, the process by which fresh layers of dirt solidify into a secure foundation, and the real rate after thousands of tons of fill had been placed into the bay, according to Handa. The texture of reclaimed land is similar to that of a wet sponge. It must be turned into a dry, thick foundation before it can hold the massive weight of airport buildings. The Kansai construction crews placed 5 feet of sand on top of the clay seabed, then put 2.2 million vertical pipes, each almost 16 inches in diameter, to create this change. Following the pounding of the pipes into the clay, they were filled with sand, which can absorb rainwater from the surrounding soil and layers beneath. Fabric has been put into pipes to sponge up moisture, similar to a wick or vertical drain, in other reclamation operations. The drains remained after the workers removed the pipes. After that, new dirt was loaded on top of the sand layer. To build up layers, construction experts dredged earth from Osaka Bay, quarried more from neighboring mountains, and even imported it from China and Korea. Moisture is sucked into the less dense sand or wicks by the mass of soil. The layers beneath the new soil are dense and non-porous, so moisture can only move horizontally into the wick through capillary action. Water then rises to the surface to be drained or evaporated, and as it does so, the layers of the soil solidify, becoming stiffer and less likely to distort. To safeguard the area of operations, a seawall was built around Kansai. The wall, which is made out of 48,000 concrete blocks and rubble, is supported by steel chambers that weigh hundreds of tons. The new strata went up to 65 feet above sea level as the dredging and filling progressed. Operations to load additional soil over the bottom were delayed at many points to allow the new level to settle and sink. 900 columns, resting on hydraulic jacks, were driven into the soil once the layers consolidated at a height anticipated to remain 13 feet above sea level for 50 years. Building foundations are supported by these columns, which can be modified by jacks to compensate for changes in settling rates. The construction of Kansai's islands began in 1987. Engineers got concerned in 1990, when the first island sunk 27 feet instead of the projected 19 feet. Workers excavated beneath the passenger terminal, put iron plates beneath the hydraulic jacks, and lifted the columns in stages to rescue the airport from the sea. Even with these protections in place, the airport is likely to settle for centuries, albeit at a far slower rate. Kansai's jacks will be readjusted every 2 years if necessary. Engineers can check for tilt on each of the 900 columns using a meter. According to Handa, there is no official estimate on Kansai's life expectancy. However, according to Golamreza Mesri, an engineering professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Island 2 might reach its warning point of 13 feet above sea level as early as 2023. If a typhoon hits Kansai directly and the waters break over the city's seawall, the city's runways and buildings will be submerged. Engineers are concerned not only about the rate of sinking, but also about its unevenness. Different sections of the Kansai Islands are sinking at different rates. Engineers found a larger degree of sinking at the basement level in the center of Kansai's passenger terminal, which is located on Island 1, than at the ends of the building. To avoid cracks or buckles, workers paved the airport runways with asphalt rather than concrete to compensate for uneven sinking elsewhere. In comparison to the billions of pounds of strain generated by the 69.5 square miles of fill constructing the islands, the weight of hangars and parking garages has little influence on sinking. According to Handa, a fully loaded Airbus A380 with fuel and people weighs less than 0.0003% of the weight of the reclaimed dirt. Kansai's construction cost was expected to be $8 billion when it opened in 1994. But by 2008, repairs and adjustments had increased the cost to $20 billion. Why take the risk of building airports on reclaimed land at such a high cost? When cities or other entities, in Kansai's case, Japan's transport ministry, plan to develop or extend an airport, they seek to acquire land that is close to the city and its transportation links, land that is valuable and sought after for a variety of lucrative uses. They must consider not just the land and building expenses, but also the environmental toll of construction and the human toll of aeroplane noise, as well as the cost of relocating and compensating individuals and businesses affected. The builders assess the airport's economic impact against these costs. Builders have calculated that developing additional land close to a city center but offshore and away from populated regions is less expensive in the long run than building airports where people live, perhaps with a touch of engineering arrogance. Kansai was created as a fundamental answer to the problem of aeroplane noise pollution near Osaka Atami International Airport, according to T. Furudoi of the Kansai International Land Development Company, which was responsible for the Kansai property after it was purchased in 2006. It is currently operated by a consortium of private corporations led by Kansai Airports, which pays the Japanese Ministry of Transport $350 million each year for the right to do so. Local residents in Osaka began objecting to the airport's construction and filing lawsuits as soon as the first plane touched down at Atami in 1964, and were eventually given compensation by Japan's highest court. A site 3 miles offshore was chosen by the Ministry of Transportation for the Kansai International Airport, which was strategically placed so that planes could fly the whole arrival and departure pattern over unpopulated areas. Even though it has been expensive to keep Kansai International Airport dry, the airport has served its aim of connecting Osaka with the rest of the globe. In 2016, Kansai International Airport handled more than 26 million passengers, making it one of Asia's top 30 busiest airports. As a result, the American Society of Civil Engineers selected it as one of the most significant civil engineering achievements of the millennium in 2001. What do you think about our video? Please let us know in the comments area below. If you enjoyed this video and would want to hear from me again, please subscribe and turn on the notification before leaving. Thank you for watching us.